theater geeks and comic book losers and all the smart sorts. This is for the tabletop dice rollers and poetry readers and every nerdy kid who's still repping the art form.
Welcome to A Comic Spot, Episode 2. This is a conversational podcast where once a week we get together and discuss everything nerdy from the last 7 days. I am your host, Antonio, and as always, my co-host Julian is here with me.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. It's been a pretty big week, if you ask me. Lot of news, some big stories.
Definitely.
Let's start with some comic book talk, though. I know there was a few more series that you wanted to talk about that you were reading. Do you want to go right into that?
Yeah, one of them is Hobgoblin.
The Axis crossover, right?
Yeah. Now I didn't read Access because I heard that it sucked.
Yeah, it was polarizing for a lot of Marvel audience.
But I did read. I read Hobgoblin because I heard that one was pretty funny and it was really similar to Superior Foes, and it actually was. It was pretty fantastic, and yeah, that's really it. I mean, I could go in depth about this for hours and hours, but
well, what exactly did you like about the series?
I liked that the main character, as you know, is Roger Kingsley.
Yeah, the original Hobgoblin.
Well, yeah, the original Hobgoblin, and he's just a fucking douchebag, dude. Like, you have no reason to be rooting for this guy, but in the end, you find yourself rooting for this guy.
Yeah. So the premise. Let's just go over that really quick. So in Axis, all the characters, a bunch of Marvel characters, heroes and villains are inverted. So their moral centers reverse. So basically, good guys become bad guys, and vice versa. So in the Hobgoblin miniseries, it's 3 issues, right?
Yeah, just 3, which is a shame. It should be longer, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, I've heard that it was a pretty good one-off title.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, the premise is that Hobgoblin, who for the past few years has been selling supervillain identities to, like, B-rate criminals and created an industry over that, he switches and starts sort of selling, like, timeshare superhero advice to people. Basically,
he's scamming superheroes into giving them cash, and in turn, they become, like, B-list, no, not B-list, that's too generous. They become like
F-list
superheroes, all while he's making a profit on self-help books.
And all he sells
like
really is like the secret style self-help books, right? Like it's just
it's the typical. All right, so you got the first payment, right? If you buy it and you sell it to more people, then you could go into phase 2, right? Now that you're in phase 2, you get to do all this shit, right? You keep doing it and you get more people into it. It basically...
I just love the idea of a superhero pyramid scheme. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a pyramid scheme.
So for people who don't know, the Hobgoblin miniseries, it was written by Kevin Shinick, I think is his name, and the art was by Javier Rodriguez, who I love. I think he's a great artist.
Yeah,
he did the art for a Spider-Man miniseries recently, Spider-Man Learning to Crawl, which was sort of set in Peter Parker's first days as Spider-Man. And he also did a bunch of issues of Wolverine and the X-Men from the Jason Aaron run. So yeah, I suggest that book. I'm pretty sure the trade should be out soon. Do you have the trade, or do you have the individual issues?
Of Hobgoblin?
Yeah.
I got the individual issues.
Okay, well, seeing as it was only 3 issues, I'd imagine that the book should be out soon.
I didn't think there was going to be a trade, actually.
I think they'll compile it. They might put it into an Axis, like, tie-in book, though.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
it's
from what you've told me about Axis, I only want to pick up fucking Hobgoblin, and that's it.
The way I like to look at Axis is that it was sort of just a launching pad for other writers because the event itself was kind of garbage. I try to be an optimist when it comes to comic book events. I love crossover events. I've gone down and said that. Like, this was the first one I did not enjoy. So that's saying something. But yeah, so pick up Hobgoblin. It's really easy for new readers. It defines who Hobgoblin is at first, and I mean, it redefines it too. So it's really, you can read it without prior knowledge.
It was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. All right, so continuing on with comic book news. I guess this isn't really comic book. Did you want to talk about, the return of a certain...
Oh, yeah. Okay, so for those who know, the co-creator of Tank Girl, also
what's his name?
Jamie Hewlett.
Jamie Hewlett.
Yeah. He also helped create the virtual band known as Gorillaz.
That some of you may have heard of.
Oh, yeah. And on Instagram, he posted that they're making a return, actually. Yeah. And I'm a huge Gorillaz fan.
Me too.
And I'm super excited for that. It's not really comic book news, but
I mean, it's not comic book news, but Jamie Hewlett is a really well-known comic book creator. Tank Girl is a huge book. And that's just really awesome. The Gorillas is such an unprecedented idea, and I love that it's coming back.
Oh yeah.
So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
So I think the topic that almost everyone is talking about this week in terms of comics is the Joker's new origin.
Oh yeah. No, I haven't actually read up that far. I've only read the first 18 issues of Scott Snyder's run.
Yeah, I think you still have like 0 year before you get there.
Yeah, I need 0 year, and
which was a massive.
After that,
run.
I'd be I've heard it's fantastic. After that, I'd be all caught up. But I don't know why I spoiled myself on the whole Joker's new origin. And
okay, so before we go into it, let's just say there will be spoilers moving forward. We're going to talk about a little in depth.
A lot of spoilers.
I'm going to try and keep things a little vague for Julian's sake, because even though he's read the article, I don't think that it quite covers everything.
I'm also an idiot.
And context is everything.
Oh, definitely.
But okay, so in last week's issue of Batman, it was number 38. It's part 4 of the Endgame series by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. Basically, the event is the Joker has taken over Gotham City and infected everyone with essentially a zombified version of Joker venom. And he himself has been telling people these various origin stories for himself of like weird, basically like he's telling inmates that he could be the devil or he could be some sort of cyborg alien, and they all have these stories of who he is really, and they're sort of trying to discern what is the real story because they can't all be true, hopefully. Yeah. And so Batman has sort of taken it upon himself to now find the truth. And so in the most recent issue, he goes after this scientist who's studying regenerative tissues and has been looking for this lost chemical that he claims that there are these immortal people in the DC universe that have used this chemical since the dawn of time, or since the dawn of man, and it's still a theoretical chemical, but he believes it exists. And so like characters like Vandal Savage, he thinks that instead of the asteroid if you don't know Vandal Savage, he was a Neanderthal who bathed in the radiation of an asteroid and then became immortal and super intelligent. This character believes that it was actually something from the Earth that turned him this way. It wasn't an alien item.
Yeah.
And so continuing on, he believes that Ra's al Ghul's Lazarus chemical is a sort of bastardized version of this chemical, and he believes that the Joker is actually someone called the Pale Man, who's been around since the dawn of Gotham and is also one of these immortals. So that sort of turns everything on its fucking head.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that, and the way I see it, if you haven't read The Killing Joke, it's a fucking classic. It's like a hallmark in
by Alan
Batman
Moore.
Stories, by Alan Moore. In that story, Joker, throughout the story, you're getting a bunch of little hints at the Joker's past, and then in the end of the story, he's just like, "Oh, by the way, that was also all bullshit." I mean, not word for word, but basically, like he tossed all that. He led you up.
That was like the first time we had gotten like this Joker origin story that we started to believe, and I mean there had been like little ones before that, but that was like the almost canon Joker origin story because of that book. And I mean, even though it wasn't even canon, it was like
it's like he leads you up and you practically get blue-balled by fucking the Joker and his origin, and like I mean I like that. I like that he doesn't have
here's the thing is that that's the Joker's shtick, and this all seems like another joke. Like this could And so the reason to believe that it isn't is that, one, this does seem like the end of Scott Snyder's Batman run, and it would be a fitting end, especially since before New 52 he did an arc called The Black Mirror, which really like analyzed who the Joker was and why he does what he does. So it would be fitting for Scott Snyder's like last Batman book for the foreseeable future to be like his and
just throw everyone off.
Yeah, and then also it's like you have to remember comic books are always changing. So what might be the Joker's origin now could completely change in 2 years. So it's a great story on its own, is what I'm saying. And and based on once you get to Endgame, it's not unbelievable. Like he's been setting it up well.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff he's pulled off in this book is, first of all, terrifying. Like, you think that that comic books can't be scary, like in terms of suspense and in terms of build-up, but they can be in this book. Like, he nails it. It's not just like gore scares. It's just you don't want to read it in a dark room.
It's unsettling. Basically.
Yeah, that's the way to look at it.
Now, the thing I want to get at is, okay, so it's established that Joker or whoever, the Pale Man. Let's refer to him as a Pale Man because basically that's. For all we know, it could be two separate.
That's what things, I want to point out is that my theory, and this isn't like the theory I'm gonna charge the battlefield with or anything, but basically, the Joker seemingly died the last time we saw him when his face was torn off. Yeah. Maybe the Pale Man is a character on his own right who's just taking the place as the Joker and using his knowledge of the Joker to sort of fuck with everyone again. And
so okay, now let me explain my my problem with that, and then I'll elaborate on yours.
Yeah.
So does that mean that the Joker has always existed? He's been known as the Pale Man, and he's always had white skin, green hair, and ruby lips, right? So what does that mean for Red Hood and the person who got pushed into the vat of chemicals? Because that's not that is canon, and Batman has experienced.
Yeah.
That,
so okay. So here's the thing. Two things. One, in the first arc of Zero Year, he does, I think it's the second arc of Zero Year, he does push the Red Hood's leader into chemicals. So we do know that still is canon. That still happens in some manner or form. It also is sort of, the way that book ends is like, there's like a visual tease at him becoming the Joker, but nothing as concrete as Alan Moore's book or anything like that.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, during Endgame, they do show you, what the Pale Man may have been like in his past, and it doesn't look like he had green hair. It does look like he's always had pale skin, maybe red lips. Obviously Joker's visual mannerisms, I don't think he was the Joker per se. I don't think he had adopted that persona yet, because I think that he still decides on that persona when Batman comes to be. Now, in regards to that, is the Red Hood the Pale Man? Well, it sort of defines on what the Pale Man's abilities are, because we still don't know per se. So, I mean, there's so many unanswered questions. I really think at this point it's going to be, you have to wait for him to tell you. You can't, the whole book is about throwing you off the trail, so.
And I remember actually one of your theories before this all got started. I mean, this was in the beginning of probably issue 34 when you started talking to me about this.
Yeah.
You had the idea that the Joker wasn't really a person, he was a being. Mm-hmm. Like the sort of entity of chaos.
An embodiment of chaos.
Yeah, and basically every time, every major arc where the Joker, quote unquote, died.
Yeah.
That host did die.
Yeah, that's my theory right now.
That host died, and then someone else. Basically, the Joker is a body hopping.
And I want it to be said that that's my theory for simply the Snyder run, because that's what he set up with it. Like, I'm not saying that's the Joker's.
And I thought about this right now. I want to elaborate on that, actually. So, in Fat Man on Batman, Scott Snyder was a guest, and that was an awesome podcast. He talked about how the way he writes Gotham is that Gotham itself, like as a land,
is like a character.
Is like a character that manifests everyone's fear.
Yeah. So do you think like the Joker is like Gotham is the tuning fork and Joker is the product?
Exactly. And even then,
and like this is sort of one of those things that could be taken in a literal sense or a metaphorical sense.
Yeah, I mean, even then, yeah, exactly. Because it's comic books. They can make that they can make Gotham a ritual ground or something fucking in the past, right? But he also explained that Two-Face is a manifestation of the duality of man and all that stuff. And Joker is the embodiment of chaos and, all that stuff. So, I mean, who is to say that Joker is a body-hopping fucking demon, for lack of a better term? Or who's to say that Joker is immortal?
Yeah, I mean, the way I like to look at it is that even if it's not sort of a god of chaos like I sort of theorized, it's totally possible that every once in a while there's a person who sort of has this, for some reason, some mass hysteria where some people just snap and become the new Joker. And it's never really explained, but that's just something that happens in Gotham because of the way Gotham breeds people. And, I mean, that's something that, like Snyder, as you said, he's not looking at this as sort of a literal sense of, here's what actually happened. He's looking at it as Gotham is a metaphor for different types of things, and the people that come out of it are metaphors.
Now, do you know how many issues are left for Endgame?
To be honest, I haven't even looked at it because I don't want to start, thinking, oh, this is the last issue. I want to sort of. Snyder's one of those people who you don't want to know what the last issue. Yeah.
Okay.
Also because I'm scared that this is his last book, so I'm just sort of letting it play out. Now, okay, one last thing I want to say about Batman before we move on is back at the beginning of the series, and I've said this before, and I'd still be upset if this turned out to be the case. The story starts with Batman just having gotten home from a fight with the Scarecrow, and the Scarecrow had
oh my god!
So the Scarecrow
I didn't know that. So now you got me thinking the same fucking thing.
Okay, so the Scarecrow, and here's the worst part: is that the Scarecrow had devised a new fear toxin that makes Batman relive his death over and over in different scenarios. The first one being he's in the future, and it's like a sci-fi, and he's fighting like alien versions of his villains, things like that. And so he has a few of these, and then the third one is him fighting the Justice League, and they turn out to be Jokerized versions. Now, what that reveals is that that's not a dream; that's what's happening. So, on one end, it could all be a dream. Two, on the other hand, Snyder is not that kind of writer. Don't get me wrong; he is the kind of writer who will fuck with your head, make you think things that aren't true. But if that is the case, it's not going to be entirely the case. It's not going to be, it was all a dream. It's going to be, there's going to be something more to it. I just want to point that out, that there is still a possibility that Scarecrow has a hand in this, or some version of Scarecrow's, Fear Gas has a hand in this. I need to go back and reread it, but I don't think Batman's tested his blood since the beginning of this, but I could be wrong. Like his own blood. So that's all I wanted to say about the Joker's origin. There is a last page sort of wow moment in that issue that I haven't even mentioned, and I don't know if you want me to spoil that for you.
No, okay. Not yet.
Because Batman,
and don't spoil it for me. Don't spoil it for
I
the
won't.
audience.
I won't, because to be honest, like, that was the best part of that issue. It's the last page. Next issue is going to be very interesting on what Batman's willing to do to stop the Joker. Is all I'll say.
Okay. Now, I will mention a one shot or one panel that I've seen. It's after the Crazy Quilt explains his
right. The Crazy Quilt
theory.
is in this issue. Granted, he's not called the Crazy Quilt, but it's a nice little homage to the character.
Now, after he explains his theory, there's just a silent couple of silent panel, where you just see the Joker swimming, And the way I think of it is almost a cinematic point of view. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
So while Crazy Quilt, while Batman is interrogating Crazy Quilt, in my mind, I'm getting like he's holding him by his rags, by his neck, right? Mm-hmm. And he's just like, tell me everything you know about the Joker, all that stuff. And we're getting like flashes to what Joker's doing, and he's swimming, right? And he's so quiet, and he's smiling underwater while he's swimming. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's the way I visualize it in my mind. It's much more terrifying to think that this person could be immortal. Mm-hmm. It's sort of hard to explain.
Yeah.
The way I think about it, but yeah. I mean, hopefully those who read it would understand. Like, oh, okay, maybe I get what this idiot's saying.
For some reason, it makes me think of a Nirvana album. Like that image. Like, I think that could be a cover for a Nirvana album.
Oh God, Nirvana. Let's not talk about Nirvana on this podcast, please.
All right. So moving on. I think we talked enough about the Joker's new origin.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So the next thing I wanted to touch on was, so Jonathan Hickman, who I will probably talk about every week. I've talked about him on the Comic Drop. I've talked about him last week's podcast. He's my favorite comic book writer currently, for good reason. Okay. And so he recently did an interview talking a little bit more about Secret Wars and about the end of the Avengers run. And the one of the things he said, which I really want to talk about, because I know you've only read the first volume, but even you were already starting to do this with New Avengers, is that he said his run of Avengers is not a mystery, it's a horror story. And because the way he puts it is everybody's sort of looking for this whodunit, who did this, who's behind all of this. And it's like, yes, there will be, obviously he's going to tell you and things will happen, but it's not like a twist or reveal or like a big moment. This is a horror story. It's all about them realizing the actuality of what's happening, that the worlds are ending. And so the reason I wanted to talk about this a little bit is he started to go into Secret Wars number 3 and talk about how the Ultimate Universe is colliding with the Marvel Universe, and he said, Secret Wars is the culmination of his entire run at Marvel, and that blew my mind, because as a comic book reader who started fairly recently, compared to maybe most of the people that you would find in a comic book store, one of the first things I ever read consistently, like weekly, or monthly, I guess, was Hickman's Fantastic Four. And specifically, I think it was the arc of Future Foundation, where he introduced the Council of Reed Richards, alternate universe versions of Reed Richards, who had banded together to stop an incoming threat that they couldn't, really pinpoint what it was. But it was like, basically, it was the end of the world as they know it. But they never stopped the threat. They never sort of addressed it, as far as I can remember, because he stops them. Because their ploy to do this is to take over worlds, to make sure that they have the power to stop these threats. So, for example, one of them had an Infinity Gauntlet, and it only worked in his universe, but he had one. So that's, it shows you how far they were willing to go.
Yeah, I remember that, actually.
Yeah, and so just fast-forwarding a few years, then he started his run on Ultimate Avengers, and it's about their version of Reed Richards turning evil and starting his own, race of people because he's seen some grand premonition of something, and he's, been enlightened. And looking back at it, I get goosebumps of, oh my God, he's talking about this. He hadn't even agreed, Marvel hadn't even told him that, for sure that he was going to get to do this.
Yeah, go ahead, do this.
But, he knew that they were going to say yes eventually, and so he had set up the seeds for it. He knew that this was what he wanted to do, and so when it came time, when they asked him to do Avengers, after Avengers vs. X-Men, he said, well, can I do it now? And they all agreed, and they sat down and they talked to all the other writers. But it's so amazing to see something that actually does have the build-up that, we always...
That's intense. Holy shit. I never knew that.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to see the Ultimate Mr. Fantastic, come in contact with the 616 version and see where that leads. So as a comic book reader, this is exciting, especially being in the situation I am. I just wanted to talk about that a little, but that's really all I wanted to say on that, is that it's been coming. Yeah, and because that's the number one thing I always see comic book fans complaining about, is that event books don't have the proper setup or build up. And Civil War is still the best build up in comic book history, and so it's really cool to see something that really has had that. So yeah, it's just nice to have something that really has had the buildup of a good comic book event that's really taken the time to set itself up. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say about the Hickman thing.
All right.
The next thing I wanted to talk about really quick was this isn't too big, except for that it is the biggest comic news of the week. Obviously, is that we've got a first preview of Spider-Gwen #1. Cue the theme music. In case you didn't know, this is the Spider-Gwen podcast. We talk about exclusively Spider-Gwen related stories. No, but seriously, I love that concept and character and design and everything about it. So it was cool to see.
Trust me, I've heard you fucking go on. Go on about that long enough, Antonio.
Yeah, so I just want to say they showed the first preview of the first issue, and it looks great. Let me just pull up it right here so I can give the credits to the creators. But yeah, it's coming soon. It does seem like it's going to be a byproduct of the Secret Wars book. The character was introduced in Spider-Verse, and it's just really cool. The reason it's cool, and I just wanted to talk about this for a second, was that you think about Gwen Stacy's death and how that was sort of the end of the Silver Age for a lot of people, and or at least the era of comics where people didn't die, and she was the first one that really had a big impact. And so to see her character back and to be sort of taking control of a situation is really cool. And the artist, Robbie Rodriguez, is awesome. Jason Latour, the writer, is a really great writer. He's written this indie book called Southern Bastards, which is really great. He's currently on Wolverine and the X-Men. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Just wanted to bring that up really quick.
I haven't really picked up anything Spider-Man related lately. Last thing that I picked up, I guess it was tangentially Spider-Man related, was the Superior Foes. But I already talked about that. But other than that, I don't know. I haven't really been able to get back in.
And then Hobgoblin
Hobgoblin
sort of picked up.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm a fan of Spider-Man, but just haven't really gotten into it.
Okay, so I just have 2 more things I wanted to talk about. Is there any other comic things you wanted to discuss?
Yeah. Not really, actually. I think we're good.
Okay, so really quick, I just want to do a quick shout out. On the comic drop last week, I bought this book and I didn't get to talk about it because I hadn't had the chance to read it yet. But now that I've read it, I just want to mention it really quick. It's called The Life After. Volume 1 came out last week, and it's written by Joshua Hale Fialkov, and the art is done by a very talented man who I can't remember the name of at the moment, but it's great art, great book. The concept is essentially, and this is a bit of spoilers for Volume 1, but I don't know how to describe this book without spoiling it, but basically it's about the second son of God. So God saw that the last time he had a son, he was sort of killed by people who didn't want to believe in him. So this time he hid him away in the one place he thought he would be safe, purgatory, but specifically purgatory for people who commit suicide. And so he's been stuck there this entire time until he finally breaks the loop of like this endless cycle of his own suicide. Yeah. And he discovers that when he touches people, he not only relives how they killed themselves, but he helps them ascend to heaven, essentially.
Jesus.
And so him and the only other person in purgatory who isn't stuck in this cycle, who happens to be Ernest Hemingway, sort of embark on this journey to shut down all of the afterlife. And that's why it's called The Life After. And it's just a really great book, a lot of cool concepts. It's by Oni Press, which is actually the first comic since, I think, Scott Pilgrim that I've read by them.
Yeah, I thought that name sounded familiar. Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and so Volume 1 came out last week. It's $10. Issue 6, which takes place right after Volume 1, also came out last week. And I strongly suggest it. So I just wanted to sort of give that a plug really quick. Yeah. That's about it for comics. But before we leave the subject, I just really quickly wanted to talk about what's coming out this week and what I'll probably be talking about on the Comic Drop this week, if that's okay with you. I'm just going to go down the list real quick.
I have some things to say about what comes out this week.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do you want to go first then?
Ant-Man #2.
Ant-Man #2, that's a great one.
Comes out Wednesday.
All right.
I'm really looking forward to it. I saw the preview, looked pretty funny. That's really it. Don't want to spoil too much.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let me just pull up the solicitation. Since you started with Ant-Man, I guess I'll begin with Marvel as well. Ant-Man #2 is a great one. I'll be picking that up as well. The Black Vortex #1, it's the Guardians of the Galaxy and X-Men crossover, comes out this week. One of my favorite artists, Chris Anka, is in it, so I'm definitely going to be picking that up and talking about that. Hawkeye #21 comes out this week. It's the start of the finale for Matt Fraction series, so I'll be picking that up. Don't worry, I won't spoil anything for Julian.
Yeah, thank you.
The Ant-Man prelude for the movie comes out, the first issue of that, and I don't know if I'll pick it up, but I definitely want to look into that.
I mean, it's a prelude for a movie, and most of the other preludes that they've made for the movies, the art looks kind of, I don't know,
they obviously don't put their best creative teams behind it because it has to be made quickly.
Yeah, but Ant-Man looks really good.
It does look really good, and it's one of those. I mean, the movie has so little context, compared to the other Marvel films, that I want to see, if there's a little more to it.
Yeah.
Continuing on with Marvel, Miss Marvel #11 comes out this week. Great series. Definitely going to pick that up. Covered by Chris Anka, who I mentioned earlier. And then the last thing I'm going to pick up from Marvel is Star Wars #2 by Jason Aaron and John Cassaday. First issue is really good. It feels like Star Wars. That's the best way I can put it. Moving on to awesome. DC, and I mind you, there's other stuff coming out, but I'm really just talking about the things I plan on picking up.
Yeah.
So the other things, DC. I will say I'm not picking up this book, or at least I don't think I am, but I wanted to mention it. Superman #38 is coming out, and the reason I wanted to mention it was Superman will be getting his new costume, and he will be debuting a new superpower. So Superman will be adding a new power to his canon. Jeff Johns is writing this book. John Romita Jr. is on the art, and it was revealed today that he will debut a new superpower in this issue. So I just wanted to mention that really quick.
But they haven't said what.
They haven't said what it is. He's been really vague. He has said it's going to be quite destructive, so it will have consequences, and he might not like it. And then the other thing is that with the preview, it does look like it's something solar-based, possibly an explosive power.
I think it's the cellophane S from the old Superman movie.
Really?
No. What the fuck?
I wouldn't put it past him. All right, so moving right along from that, Batman Detective Comics #39 by Francis Manipal and I think Brian Buccellato, whatever his name is. It's coming out.
I don't know.
It's been following the Anarchy story, so I'll be picking that up. Batman Eternal #44. I think that's all for DC. And then lastly, I just wanted to say East of West number 17, which is Jonathan Hickman's book about a sci-fi apocalyptic western, which is really good. And last but not least, sorry, just going down the list of solicitations.
Yeah.
I wanted to say Saga was coming out, but yes, Saga number 25 is coming out this week. And while I am behind on Saga, it's a great series, so I might try to catch up this week, if not next week. Yeah. So yeah, those are this week's solicitations. Obviously, I'll talk more about that on the Comic Drop, and that should conclude what we wanted to talk about on comic books. Did you have any last thoughts?
That's it, but you know what's next? Movie talk.
Yeah, I know you know what's next.
Yeah, I do know what's next. Actually, no, not really. Today was, apart from our big news story at the end, there really wasn't that much that really caught my eye this week. Mm-hmm. Moira McTaggart, she's going to be in the new
X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah, I mean...
So for people who don't know, what's her name? The actress's name, is it Rose Byrne? Is her name?
Yeah.
It was played Moira McTaggart in X-Men First Class, so she'll be returning for X-Men Apocalypse. I don't have any thoughts on that. Do you?
I don't really care.
Yeah. So moving right along. Cool. I mean, cool to see her in another movie. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that's good. So X-Men Apocalypse is going to be set in the 80s.
Yeah, we knew that already. Or at least we knew, we had sort of heard that from Bryan Singer.
Yeah,
he hasn't yeah.
So apparently they're looking for the team that they're trying to create for that is a really 80s based X-Men.
Yeah.
X-Men team now. I mean apart from Cyclops, Storm, and Jean, not really. You know, no one else really comes to mind apart from Beast.
Okay, so I just wanted to talk about that really quickly. I think it was in an interview recently that I want to say it was Simon Kinberg, who's the screenwriter for X-Men Apocalypse. Yeah. He's also the screenwriter for Fantastic Four and a lot of Fox's Marvel movies. But he said that they're looking for characters, or they understand that it's going to have an 80s aesthetic, and they're looking for characters that from the comics fit that aesthetic. And we already know that Gambit could make an appearance because he's been cast and it was sort of like in tandem with the Apocalypse. Is he officially in the cast, or is that sort of up in the air?
I think he has been. I know that he got his movie confirmed, but okay. I think he's going to be introduced.
And obviously he's a little more of a 90s character, but he does sort of fit the visuals of the 80s as well. And so within that vein, I expect Dazzler and Longshot to be in the X-Men Apocalypse in some capacity. Now, Dazzler could even just be a cameo of her literally being like a pop singer. Like, it would make sense for the story. Longshot, I kind of want him to be on the main team because he's a character who I think, especially with what he did with Quicksilver, Longshot seems like Bryan Singer would love to play with him. And really poor choice of words, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I don't really have any a basis for this one, but Nightcrawler.
Oh,
I feel like Nightcrawler.
Well, okay, you know what? Let's
appropriate.
I don't want to. Tread on you, but I want to say Bryan Singer confirmed that he had a young version. Okay, he was going to have an older version of Nightcrawler in Days of Future Past, and because he couldn't fit it in, he was going to adapt it as a younger Nightcrawler for X-Men Apocalypse. Now he hadn't confirmed that since, so I don't know if that was in the script anymore, because obviously scripts change. But he did mention that when he started on X-Men Apocalypse, so I would love to see new Nightcrawler. He's a character that has not gotten enough love in the movies. And then the last thing I want to say is we know that they're making an X-Force movie, so it wouldn't be hard to believe that Cable, Cable and the other X-Force in their very 80s looks, might appear. Obviously, again,
pouches and fucking pouch.
I mean, obviously, again, those are 90s characters as well, like very tertiary to the 90s, but they would make sense in the 80s as well.
In order for Cable, I mean, the only way I'd accept Cable in an X-Force movie is if his upper half of his body is about 3 times bigger than the lower half of his body. Almost
just to fit with the.
Okay, think of it as a pyramid. You know, the way that you think of a pyramid, or even a triangle, right? Mm-hmm. So you take that pyramid and you flip it upside down.
Yeah.
I think that's the body type that they should base the movie Cable
We
on.
need to keep accurate to the comics, so we need someone who looks like Rob Liefeld's art. So it needs to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but like photoshopped.
And they need to get rid of his legs and replace them with like a.
He also cannot have feet. We never can show his feet. No. That's very important.
They also need to be really angular. Yeah. But all joking aside, X-Force movie could be cool. especially after the Deadpool movie that comes out, it'd be nice to see a little more of a team dynamic that isn't the X-Men.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, that's it.
But yeah, I mean,
actually,
obviously they didn't confirm much with this report. It was just it creates an interesting discussion of who would fit in this film.
But speaking of team films, Joss Whedon might not be directing Avengers 3 and 4.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure it was confirmed to be the Russo brothers would be taking that over. Actually, later last year, they did report that the Russo brothers would be directing Infinity War, but the Russo brothers, I believe, didn't confirm it. No, they haven't.
So it's, obviously things can change, and until Marvel Studios comes out and does their strategic press event at the Hollywood Theater, we will not know for sure. But it seems like it would make sense with the Russo brothers directing Civil War. Why not have them direct Infinity War?
Yeah, I mean, Whedon said that he's not really, or he won't be directing 3 and 4. But it seems like he might be interested in Captain Marvel.
Yeah, so what he said was, he wants to work on his own projects because, he's worked on someone else's characters for upwards of, I think 3 to 4 years now, and he wants to get back to doing his own stuff. And I totally understand that as a creator. But he did say that he wouldn't, he loves strong female characters. He did say he doesn't know much about Captain Marvel, but obviously if he's given the chance...
that would change,
Yeah. And, so yeah, I don't know what the future for Joss Whedon at Marvel holds, but I'm sure there still will be one. I don't think that they'll ever just excommunicate him after Avengers, but it's it's going to be interesting to see a new direction on the Infinity War movies.
I think I think he'd be a good fit for Captain Marvel. He seems to really appreciate tough female.
But what I will say about that is if they can get a female director on that film, that'd be awesome.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Avengers, this isn't really movie news.
Hey, it's the most important movie news to me.
For you. But it's kind of okay, so Lego, or I think it's Tall it's not Tall
it's Traveler's Tales.
Traveler's Tales, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Not Telltale. They announced Lego Avengers, the video game, for fall 2015, I believe. Now it's not movies, but it's basically following the events of the first and second film, so...
Yeah, let me just dissect that a little bit really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So they had a press event recently, and they announced a multitude of Lego games for the year. The other notable one is they announced Jurassic World for June, which will have all 4 Jurassic Park films in the game. So I think that's pretty cool. But then, so they announced Lego Avengers, which is based on the first 2 films. Sounds interesting. It seems to be based directly on the movie's plot, and I'm personally hoping that means that they do the Lord of the Rings route, where they have the movie's audio dubbed into the game. So instead of the voice actors they had for Lego Marvel, they have actual Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, because it's cutscenes based on the scenes from the film.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I haven't played Lego. Was it Lego Lord of the Rings? I didn't know that.
It wasn't one of the best ones. It was a good game, but Lego Marvel Superheroes still stands as, I think, the best Lego game to date.
Yeah.
Lego Batman 3 was a nice, sort of progress, but in terms of the open world, it wasn't quite there. So, I don't pretend to be a big gamer or even know that much about video games, but I love Lego games, and I'm excited for this one.
Now, these next 3 pieces of news I covered in Scene Spots last week. I'll expand upon them a little bit. So Jason Momoa is super... he's humbled, he's excited, he's proud, every word.
Such a great dude.
He is. He looks like a fucking awesome dude. He's excited to play Aquaman. Same goes for Ezra Miller as the Flash. They're both just fangirling, basically. Mm-hmm. And but Jason Momoa specifically, because they're not making Aquaman white, they're not making him blonde, So the way he really says it, it's not word for word, but he's proud that he could play a brown superhero, basically.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. Aquaman's never a character who I think needed to be white at all. It didn't really make sense that he was white to begin with. So, I think his dad was American, but even then, it doesn't, it doesn't fit any sort of visual context. It's Atlantis. They should look Greek, if anything. So Jason Momoa is a great fit. I think he's going to make a great Aquaman. I think he's going to make people care about Aquaman.
Definitely.
And respect Aquaman, if nothing else. Khal Drogo is a force to be reckoned with.
Jesus. Yeah.
We're looking at a guy who played Conan the Barbarian.
Another story is that Suicide Squad finally started pre-production.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird that they started pre-production, but they don't have Rick Flag yet.
They don't have their entire cast yet. My guess is they're doing scenes with Adam right now, or even they might not even doing scenes yet. They might just be building the set and stuff. I think there were some photos of.
How would you feel if they wrote Rick Flag out?
I wouldn't. It's one of those things where it depends on. We don't know the plot yet. I have theories about the plot. If the plot is what I think it is, he's not necessary because you can have a character that's as long as you do have a character in that place of someone who reigns in the squad while they're on a mission. Because
if anything, they could replace somehow. They could kind of replace or combine Amanda Waller and Rick Flag. If they really
since they've
to.
already casted Amanda Waller, I don't see her as being in the New 52. Amanda Waller is a lot younger. She's actually the daughter of like sort of the reboot Amanda. So she's thinner. She's more fit and younger and more of a field agent. But I would say that they could go that route, except for they've cast, I can't remember the actress's name right now, but they've casted an actress as Amanda Waller, and she, not that she isn't, an attractive actress or anything like that. I mean, she's a very talented actress. She's on, what's that show? How to Get Away with Murder. Yeah, which is a fantastic show, and she's phenomenal on it, but she's going to be playing, I think, a more, classic Amanda Waller, the Wall Amanda Waller. Yeah. The sort of behind closed doors TV screen Amanda Waller. Now, she's going to be the kind that doesn't mind getting face-to-face with Harley Quinn and telling her to sit down, but I don't think she'll be on field missions with them. And I think that if they're going the route I think they are, they're going to want someone who is on a field mission with them, reining them in.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of sense.
Now for the next piece of movie news, I also give my opinion on this. The Ghostbusters reboot has a cast, and for lack of a fucking better term, I don't give a shit.
I mean, it's one of those things. I never thought there needed to be a Ghostbusters reboot. But then at the same time, if they're gonna do one, it's not a bad cast. It's not a bad team. As long as it's not trying to be the original Ghostbusters, as long as it's trying to be, a Ghostbusters for a new era, I can probably get on board with it. Just I don't want it to try and take the place of Ghostbusters. I want it to be, here's the new Ghostbusters,
I mean, if that's I guess that's my main problem with it. If that's what the route that they wanted to go with, they could have taken a note from the games and have Ghostbusters become basically a company.
Yeah.
And each town.
Yeah, I much would have like essentially just a sequel that's its own new series. Like I would have loved that.
That could have been way better. But instead, they wrote out Peter Venkman. They wrote out Ray Stantz. Everyone.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they handle it, especially with is it set in modern day? Do we know?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're taking the film in a direction that really. Okay, they had all these possibilities, and they chose sort of the worst direction to take it in. Mm-hmm. By getting rid of all these established characters, and
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't really care.
I guess personally, I'm not a huge Ghostbusters fan, so I'm just willing to wait and see.
I fucking grew up on Ghostbusters.
I think my main issue is that I love the cast except for Melissa McCarthy.
Oh God,
I don't enjoy her work.
I can't say I hate her. I really can't say. I can't say I hate anyone, but my God, she plays the same character in almost every movie.
And I'm scared that that's a character she'll play in this, and I don't want that. I love Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig is awesome. But from what they've described about Melissa McCarthy's character is that she's a subway. I think she's a subway fucking engineer or some shit like that.
Okay, so wait a minute. So they're not actually scientists?
No, they're not. They're not.
That's weird.
Yeah. So there is no what's a female name for Peter?
Patricia.
There is no Patricia Venkman.
Uh-huh.
They're
entirely new characters.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess to me it's a wait and see.
I don't care. I don't know. I've made it known how I feel about that, and that's it, really.
Okay, so moving on with movie news, there's something that I wanted to mention actually before we move on. Something I totally forgot that we haven't talked about yet. Chris Pratt is being eyed for Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah.
I think we need to talk about that for a second. Speaking of reboots,
Yeah.
Now this is something.
If this got a reboot, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, and it's
Chris Pratt is the Chris Pratt is basically the new Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
And he's the everyman, you know.
Well,
like,
here's
a
the
lot
thing
of
I
people
want to say
identify
about this is
with
that
him.
okay, so it's the reason I'm on the wait and see approach with Ghostbusters is Indiana Jones is one of those characters who I feel is not defined by his era. He's an adventure icon. He's like James Bond in my opinion. It just happens that they've only done one version of it. So, you know, like I look at the Uncharted games as like modern day Indiana Jones. So I don't mind seeing a movie that, you know, encompasses that is the modern day Indiana Jones.
Like a modern day.
Like obviously I still expect him to wear the Indiana Jones outfit more or less, but I don't expect it to be set in the 40s. I don't see this as a reboot. I see this as a revamp, you know, a new Indiana Jones. And the reason I say this is I don't see Chris Pratt as a history professor. So
I mean, I actually can. That dude's got a lot of range, you know. I mean, could you have seen him as a fucking soldier in Zero Dark 30?
Okay, to be fair, I haven't seen Zero Dark 30, so I'm going off.
Neither have I, but still,
yeah.
He was cast as a soldier.
So I'm going off of Parks and Rec, Star-Lord, and Lego Movie, which are all very sort of, you know, goofy kind of, not the most intelligent.
but yeah, I mean, I could see him. I could see him play Indiana Jones. I could see him play a history professor, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But now that you bring it up, I mean, a remake set in the 40s or, you know, whatever era or a modern day remake, I'm pretty sure if they went for modern, they could find a way to make it work and make it pretty badass. Yeah. Basically like Uncharted.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the reason I wanted to talk about this, and I'm excited about it, is Chris Pratt was offered the role of Nathan Drake for an Uncharted film. And he turned it down, and I was so heartbroken. And now I can see if he knew that this was coming his way, I could totally see why. He was waiting for the real deal.
I know this will sound stupid, but it's basically he's made for the part because he's based off of him. Mm-hmm. Johnny Knoxville as Nathan Drake.
Yeah, I could see it.
You do know that Nathan Drake was based directly off of Johnny Knoxville.
I do.
Yeah,
and the only reason
I could see it work.
If they're gonna go with it, go that route. Just because if you can't do that, I mean, it's so weird to have someone other than Nolan North play Nathan Drake, you know, to begin with.
Yeah.
So at least go for someone who's, you know, encompasses the character. You know, that definitely. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the other bit of Lucasfilm news. I know it's not LucasArts anymore, but still. So Star Wars, what is it? 8 and 9.
8 and 9.
They got dates. To be honest, I don't have the dates up right now. Let me pull them up.
Okay.
So they got their release dates, and this isn't unexpected. I mean, we know that they're going to do the trilogy. You know, everyone knows that. So Star Wars Episode 8 will be 2017, and I think they said... I don't think they've given us an actual... Okay, maybe they haven't given us an actual date, just a year. So 2017 for Star Wars Episode 8 and 2019 for Episode 9. Nothing too unexpected there.
Yeah, I mean... Seems appropriate. Not really big news, but...
Cool that they're giving themselves at least 2 years between each film. I'm assuming, to be honest, I expect them to be every December. Makes sense. It would make them a lot of money.
Wasn't that like The Hobbit?
Yeah.
Didn't they do that? Yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, The Hobbit was, I think, one of the biggest blockbuster in terms of international release. It made them one of the, I think it was like number 3 or 4 on like most profitable films of the year for 2014. Really? And I think that's largely due. Don't get me wrong, I love that the Battle of Five Armies, but I think that was largely due to its Christmas release. Yeah.
Now, do we have much more film news? I mean, we do, but we're saving that for the final.
There was one last thing I wanted to touch on, I think. Let me just check really quick to make sure we're not forgetting anything. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to touch on was Descender, which is a indie comic. It hasn't been released yet. The first issue is in, I think, next month. It's by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen, I think is how you pronounce his last name. I've actually met him. He's a fantastically nice guy, very talented artist. Currently does the art for Little Gotham and a few other things. He's a longtime Batman artist. They're writing their own comic called Descender. It's a sci-fi about a little boy robot. And it just got signed on for a movie by, I believe, Sony Pictures. And so it's just a small bit of news, but it's exciting.
So let's move on to TV news. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the Netflix Defenders because there was a bit more this week.
They've a couple pieces.
They've been rolling out like reveals each week. So let's start with the one that is sort of vague. What's the actress's name? The one who played Trinity in The Matrix.
Fuck. That's a good question.
Let me pull that up really quick.
It is Carrie Ann Moss.
Yes, so she was cast in the forthcoming Jessica Jones show that Marvel will be doing on Netflix. We don't know who she's playing. They gave us a little bit of information about her character. She's going to be...
They say, the no-nonsense Harper, a person in position of authority who could prove a powerful ally to Jessica.
Okay, so moving right along, let's go into the next bit of Defenders news. Another Jessica Jones casting was Hellcat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I covered that. I also covered that. I don't know why I said, oh, yeah.
And the reason I wanted to mention that is because in the book, Miss Marvel plays a big role in Jessica Jones's life as sort of this, And so I feel Hellcat will be taking her place because of the Captain Marvel film.
Yeah, because of Captain Marvel.
So I'm excited for that. Hellcat's a great character. So, yeah, we don't have a lot of information about her casting as well.
I mean, I think she plays a radio host, if I'm not correct, named Patsy Walker.
Patricia Walker is her name. I didn't read any information about her in the film.
Honestly,
show.
I mean, I think that's it. I think that's all that there really is to it,
Have they confirmed if she will have her superpowers in the show?
No, they haven't said anything like that.
I'm going to go ahead and assume she will, personally, but that's just my... Okay, so continuing on with some Marvel TV stuff. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had its first preview for its return for the Season 2.
Oh, yeah, it's coming back, huh?
Yeah, at the end of the mid-season finale, spoiler alert, we discovered that Skye is actually Daisy Johnson, aka Quake. Yeah, who has the ability to create earthquakes. She's an Inhuman, and she is she's the first official Inhuman that we've sort of seen. That's not entirely true, but it's the first time, like, they did the Terrigenesis. She got her powers like an Inhuman, so the Inhumans are officially in the MCU now. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. brought them in. We've known that they've been setting this up for a while. All of us have sort of, speculated it with the Kree body and everything. So it's cool to see that we're going to get some, payoff.
Yeah, from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah.
So the last bit of Marvel TV news I think I wanted to talk about is Agent Carter. Last week had a sort of... this character named Dottie was talked about on the internet by everyone, and the creator of the show came out and said, yes, she is important to the comics. She's not a character from the comics per se, but she is one of the first people to go through the Red Room training system that creates the Black Widow. She is one of the first Black Widows. This coming week, there will be a new episode of Agent Carter. She will team up with the Howling Commandos from Captain America, so Dum Dum Dugan, Gabe Jones, all of those great guys. See them again. So do we want to move on to DC TV news?
Okay, yeah, let me get I also talked about this in my video last week. Jimmy Olsen was cast, and I'm not remembering his name.
Makad Brooks.
If
I'm pronouncing that right.
He's cast as...
Jimmy Olsen.
Jimmy Olsen. Now, we'll show a picture right now, but for those just listening, he's African American, and Jimmy Olsen is...
normally a white ginger.
Yeah, a white ginger. So they definitely went the other route, well, the exact opposite for what this character could be.
Now, what I believe they're going for is they mentioned this back when they were pitching the pilot for the CBS. Oh, we should mention this is for the CBS Supergirl show.
Oh yes,
that is CBS. Set in the universe of Arrow and the Flash, but might not cross over with them. So we mentioned this earlier. Anyway, the dynamic that they're going for is he is in place of Lois Lane, where Supergirl is essentially Clark Kent. So, she will have a crush on him. He will be the accomplished reporter. She is the more bumbling kind of new, a rookie.
Now, the thing that I have a problem with, I mean, I don't care if he's, that he's African American. It's fine, as long as he does a good performance. But if you fucking look at pictures of this guy's like big and bulky and fucking, he's... I guess
well, as I said, I think they're going for that route of she's not going to be, I'm hoping that their Supergirl is a little bit more kind of awkward and dorky.
Like the every girl. And
at least when she's, being Kara or Karen or whatever her persona is. And that he'll be that sort of attractive, as I said, Lois Lane kind of character. Yeah. And I don't mind that, because if you're not going to have Lois Lane, you still need that dynamic, I think, if you're going that. I think what they're going for is a Superman story, but with Supergirl.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, like I said, that's my only problem. Dude's fucking too big to be like a little sidekick, basically.
Also, I think it's interesting that I like that the shows have sort of not cared about, changing things from the comics for the sake of diversity, which I think is really cool. Like, we have Iris West in The Flash, who is African American in the show, and Joe West, who I think is one of the best casting choices that DC has ever made. he's not even a character I care about in the comics, and I love Joe West in the Flash show. So
it's fucking awesome in the show, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they cast acting first, you know, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it should be.
Okay, so next bit of DC TV news, we got screenshots of, set pictures of the Trickster.
I think he looks fucking great.
Yeah, he looks like the Trickster.
Yeah, he's basically a throwback to Mark Hamill's Trickster, James Jesse from the TV show.
Yeah.
He looks awesome, dude.
But I think the important thing is that also he has the pants, like the exact same pants from the New 52
have you seen his have you seen his shirt?
Yeah, it looks great.
His shirt is the exact same what am I looking for? It's the exact same design as the other Trickster shirt. It looks like it looks like the new Trickster had a bunch of white paint and a black shirt and was actually looking at a photo of James Jesse from the TV show and just copied it onto a shirt, which I think is fucking a nice throwback. Really nice throwback.
I think my currently only issue is his hair. I wish that they had gone a little bit more...
people want it to be a platinum.
I don't mind the color. I think that it just should be a style that's a little bit more out there. Just because in the comics he's sort of a...
kooky, fucking crazy, all that stupid stuff.
We should mention that Mark Hamill will actually be in this upcoming episode of The Flash, playing the older Trickster, the retired Trickster. Well, imprisoned Trickster, we should say.
I mean...
New episode this week, by the way. Some great stuff. Last week's was awesome, introduced the Pied Piper.
Yep.
Also, and this week, I think we're going to get a bit more in-depth with the Firestorm
mystery. The Firestorm project.
Yeah. Okay,
I just want to... I want to note this really quick. Like I said, I wasn't a real big fan of the mid-season return.
Yeah.
This episode definitely a huge improvement. It
redeemed
also
it for you?
Oh, definitely. It raised a bunch of questions, and yeah, I mean, it's good to see that they're back on track and that they're not just having a bad mid-season start. You know?
Before we move on from The Flash again, I just want to say one last thing. They did talk about how there is an end game for Harrison Wells, and there will be a lot of time travel to come. I think that they might have said that this week's episode. I want to say they mentioned Peekaboo is the new enemy for this week.
Yeah.
They said that her teleport powers might have some time travel implications, but I don't remember exactly what they said. Okay, so really quickly, one tiny bit of Arrow news. Suicide Squad is going to be returning to the show, and there will be a new addition to the team. If you've been watching Arrow, then you know this already. But Cupid will be joining Task Force X. She was taken by Amanda Waller in her episode at the end, and Amanda Waller candidly said, well, she's even crazier than the last female we had on the team, which we all know was Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
And that was a nice little nod to it. So I just wanted to point that out really quickly. So we can move on from that now. Did you want to mention any Gotham news?
Last week, I mean, like I've said, I think the show's getting better. I mean, it's definitely building up a lot, and
now we know it's building up to some actual big characters from the comics, like Scarecrow, the Red Hood, Dick Grayson's
Scarecrow
father.
Comes out. Well, we're recording this podcast on February 2nd. So
yeah, we should mention that. We're recording this Monday, February 2nd, so...
Yeah, so he comes out tonight, actually. Not Scarecrow per se, but Scarecrow's father.
Yeah, so a Scarecrow of sorts.
A pre-Scarecrow. It's cool to see that they're just planting a bunch of different seeds right now. And I'm going to spoil a little bit of last week's episode. Basically, because I want you to know, because I want to see how you look at this.
Yeah.
Harvey Bullock,
yes,
right, is in love with Fish Mooney. It's been okay. The more you think about it, right?
Yeah.
When you look at their interactions, the first every episode prior.
Don't get me wrong; it makes perfect sense. I just don't care.
Yeah, that's true.
I just don't care. Okay, so can I just, since we should keep moving with the TV news, can I just mention a few more things?
Yeah. No.
Okay, so DC announced 2 new animated series based on toy lines. One is Batman Unlimited. Another one is the DC Super Friends. I don't care about either. I just wanted to get that out there.
Just get that out there.
Yeah, okay, the next thing is, this is not DC related, but before I talk about the last bit of DC news, I wanted to get these 2 TV bits out there. During the Super Bowl, we got the first teaser trailer for Heroes Reborn, the Netflix Heroes miniseries. Since it is kind of comic book related, I wanted to mention that. And in it, we got to see that HRG, or more commonly known as Noah Bennett, is returning, and that's pretty cool. If you've watched the original Heroes, he's one of the best characters even in the later seasons. So, and then the last thing, before we get to the one last bit of DC news I want to mention, was Game of Thrones Season 5 trailer, launched on, I believe it was Friday. I actually was at the IMAX event for Game of Thrones. They showed the episodes 9 and 10 of Season 4, and after it we got to see the Season 5 trailer in theaters. But then that night they put it up on the internet as well. If you were a huge fan of Game of Thrones, like I am, check it out. It comes back in April. So just before we move on from TV, I wanted to mention probably the biggest bit of TV news in my opinion, and really amazing that I think it was announced this morning. So a few months back, there was reports that TNT was looking to sign on a Teen Titans show, and the most interesting thing was that they were looking to set it in the Arrow and Flash and now Supergirl universe, with Colton Haynes reprising his role as Arsenal and Manu Bennett reprising his role as Deathstroke. Now those were unconfirmed and just speculation, but there were news sites reporting on this. Now, they were also announced that they also reported on a show called Krypton on Sci-Fi, sort of in the vein of Gotham. But moving on, so the important part is today, Nerdist, a reporter at Nerdist, confirmed, and I say that with quotation marks, because DC
and a question mark
because DC has not come out and sort of said yes, this is happening, but for all intents and purposes, the Teen Titans show on TNT has been confirmed, and not only did she confirm this, but she confirmed who the main cast will be, not the actors, but the characters. Yeah. So it will star a young Dick Grayson, maybe a young adult Dick Grayson, still being Robin, serving as sort of a private detective post-Batman, pre-Nightwing. Barbara Gordon, who will not be called Oracle, but will be in a wheelchair and be their tech expert. Hawk and Dove, who I don't think have ever been on the Teen Titans in the comic books. That's
definitely pretty weird.
Yeah,
to see,
it's
Hawk and Dove.
It's Hank Hall and Dawn Granger, which is even more interesting because Dawn Granger is one of the second or third incarnations of Dove, but she's one of my favorites, so I don't mind it. But it's just interesting. And then lastly, Raven and Starfire are set to appear, I think, at the end of the pilot. And Raven will be based on Jeff Johns' mid-2000 run of Teen Titans, so she will be Rachel Roth. And there's no real info on Starfire or her significance or what she'll do. But I think it's really cool that the Teen Titans cast is primarily female superheroes. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great to see Robin and Hawk on a team, and obviously there's other people I want to see on this team, but to start it that way is pretty cool, especially since they're badass, they're really good choices too. Raven, Starfire, and Barbara Gordon and Dove are all awesome people. So if this is true, and it's on TNT, which has money, I would be very excited to see this show. What do you think?
I haven't seen. I don't really watch TNT. Like once I heard that it was going to be on that channel, nothing came to mind. Like,
well, yeah, I can't think of a show on TNT. Yeah, I just know that they are a cable channel and have money.
Yeah, so I wouldn't know like the type of quality of the stuff that they put out, or the or like the budget or anything. So I'm not sure at this point. I think it's cool. I'd really want to see Nightwing.
Really quick though, actually, I shot myself in the foot a bit. Nerdist. We still don't know if the information that Nerdist came up with is true.
It is true, yeah.
But we do know the Teen Titans show is officially happening because back in December, Jeff Johns tweeted that they shoot the pilot for Teen Titans this year. So at least there is a Teen Titans show happening. Whether this is the actual cast is questionable. But sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. I was done.
So yeah, I think it's great to see Dick Grayson finally live action. Aside from Batman and Robin, which we will not talk about. But it's great to see a modern live action interpretation of Dick Grayson. It's amazing how long it's taken because of film rights to see anything like even Batman or Robin on television. So. Especially since they were the staples of superhero television when it began, so it's kind of it's funny that we haven't seen them on TV in that long. I mean, in a live action capacity. So I'm excited if this happens. If it's set in the Arrow and the Flash universe, then I think that would be incredible. But CBS is one thing. TNT is a stretch to get viewers to accept continuity. Like CBS is like you just go up a channel, or down a channel. Sorry. Yeah. So, but TNT is like you have to actually have cable. So,
yeah.
So I don't know.
It might be
But then
It
again,
might be in canon, might not.
but then again, I mean, they did confirm that they're doing a animated Vixen series set in that universe on their website, so they're willing to go that route of having multi-platform.
That little extra mile to
yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, I just wanted to bring that up because it's really big news. But obviously we don't know if anything said today is true, but it's really cool to think about.
Yeah. Now, I think it's about time that we moved on from television. If you don't have anything else to add, I know I don't.
Yeah, I'm good.
Time for the big topic of the week, the huge surprise, the thing that no one really saw coming, which I also expanded. Well, I'm gonna expand right now, but I brought it up in my video.
Mm-hmm.
The Fantastic Four reboot.
Ryan Gosling playing all characters.
Let me learn you. What I hold in my hands on a mic is the ultimate nullifier. What I hold in my hands on a mic is the ultimate nullifier. What I hold in my hands on a mic is the ultimate nullifier. What I hold in my hands on a mic is the ultimate nullifier. Hey, yo, Johnny.
So, Fantastic Four reboot got a trailer that dropped last week, and
Tuesday, right?
I'm not entirely sure. It was last week. Now I'm gonna say this from the standpoint of someone who didn't really care about it at first.
Mm-hmm.
I was indifferent, sort of leaning toward the I don't care side, basically because of what I heard from the report. There was like a bunch of quote unquote leaks about the plot, about fucking behind the scenes problems, all that shit. Basically, what I was hearing, I wasn't liking what I was hearing, but the trailer, it surprised me, it surprised a lot of other people, and the more I think about it, the more I'm getting excited for this actual movie. You know? Like, I understand the changes that they've made. It's nothing really crazy. I mean, they're not doing anything really outlandish. I mean, the most outlandish thing is not only making Sue and Johnny adoptive brothers, but making a hacktivist Dr. Doom.
Yeah. Okay,
Other
so
than that,
before you go
really
too much
crazy.
into the plot details and stuff, I wanted to say on the record, I've been on board with this film from the start. All the plot rumors, while different from the comics, nothing had thrown me off of it completely. I love Josh Trank. I loved Chronicle. I love Michael B. Jordan. I love who is the actor? I'm pretty sure you liked him too. Who played Koba?
Oh, Toby Kebbell.
Yeah, so
fantastic
there's a
actor
lot of great
playing
people already.
Dr.
And
Doom.
Miles Teller's a fantastic actor as well. Kate Mara is a great actress, or Kate Mara, sorry. Great cast from the people I know. So going into it, I was waiting for a trailer to make an opinion, but I wasn't against it at all. And the trailer just reinforced that for me.
I mean, like I said, I wasn't really against it, but I also just didn't care if it was good or not. You know? But
well,
seeing
now that the trailer is out, let's talk about it in that sense.
It looks fucking fantastic now.
So let's start by just talking about the trailer. It was a 2-minute teaser trailer. If you haven't seen it, we'll have a link in our YouTube video just to so you guys can watch it.
And definitely put some screenshots.
Yeah, we'll have some images. If you're listening to the MP3, check out the video, or we'll be posting some thoughts and stuff on our social media too. So don't worry about it. But so Fantastic Four trailer. It's about 2 minutes. Doesn't show a lot, but it shows more than I thought it would.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So,
first off, we get a look at their containment suit. I guess that's what it's described as.
Okay, so wait, where are you considering their containment suits? Because we get to see them in two different suits.
Yeah, that's right. I want to get to that.
Okay.
Now, from what they've described, and actually there's an artist rendition from Nerdist that each character gets a containment suit, right?
And it's important to mention that Nerdist got a first look and started posting these the day before, their sketches of what they look like, and people weren't sure if they were true, and then the trailer dropped the next day, and obviously
the trailer dropped and it shows
they
everything
were,
like that. Now, the containment suits are basically specific for every character, for every Fantastic Four member, instead of it being a uniform. You know what I mean? So
they are made depending on their specific powers. Yeah,
they're made for the power. Now, Sue Storm, I mean, we only get a back shot of it. Mm-hmm. It just looks like the Ultimate costume, really, but black.
It's got fingerless gloves.
It's got fingerless. I mean,
which we all know I love fingerless gloves.
Oh, he's in love with fingerless gloves. Yeah, I mean, you can't really do much with invisible powers. You can't really contain it. So, I mean, that's going to be the least visually
I disagree,
appealing.
but all right.
Now, obviously, Johnny Storm's costume has vents.
Yeah, like vents all over him, so he
vents
doesn't
on
overheat.
The arms, on the chest, so he doesn't overheat. Now the weirdest, but sort of smartest. I mean,
it looks
it doesn't
weird.
look too bad.
It sounds like a weird concept, but it makes sense.
And it sounds weird. Is Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards. Now on his arms and his legs, I'm not sure about his chest
or his neck,
or his neck. Yeah, exactly, or his neck. He's got springs, right?
Think of like a slinky.
Yeah, like when you were a little kid and you put a slinky on your arm and you just like fucking wave it around, right? He's got it like that so that if he ever loses control, his limbs will snap back into place. Mm-hmm. It's smart,
but it's really weird.
It's kind of weird. It's weird and it's smart, basically. But moving on from that, those were the containment suits we saw. Now, at one point, there's a part in the trailer where you see 6 people, which we'll elaborate on. I know you're gonna go crazy right now, Antonio. We'll elaborate on that right now. 6 people walking into these pods. I mean, for what we know, it could be teleporters to.
Okay, well let's expand on the plot just really quickly.
Yeah.
Is that in this version, the Fantastic Four's origin? We know this officially. They do not go to space. They travel to another dimension, and there they get their powers.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, for what we've seen, they could be going into the end zone.
The negative zone, yeah.
Yeah, the negative zone at first, and then they get their powers, or, who knows right now.
And we're assuming that this dimension is the negative zone. It would make the most sense.
Yeah, but from what we see 6 people in the classic Fantastic Four. It's the classic Fantastic Four suits. Now, they're sort of different, and they're made to look more, not tactical. Tactical is not the right word.
They look like astronaut suits.
Yeah, they look like a mix of the astronaut suits and the classic Fantastic Four costume. They've basically blue bodysuit and black gloves and black boots. Now let's segue that back in. There's 6 people.
Yeah, that's the most interesting thing to me.
That's the only thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who do you think the other 2 people are?
Okay, so on one end, they could just be 2 people who get killed in this other universe to sort of show how dangerous it is.
They get powers, right? Like they get powers and fucking they turn inside out or some shit. Something really bad, awful.
So they could be throwaway characters just to show like the sort of magnitude of what happens when they travel. On the other end, if it is the negative zone, and just let me roll with this for a second. If it is the negative zone, in the comics, for those of you who don't know, the negative zone is a universe that Reed Richards discovers. He's famous for discovering this. It's a universe of entirely antimatter energy, and there are natives to this universe. Most of them are sort of insectoid creatures, but there are some others. And the 2 most notable people to live in the negative zone are, one, Annihilus, the ruler of it, who is a sort of robotic insect-like being with this cosmic rod of power, and the other is a sort of warlord named Blastar who can create explosions, and he's sort of like a lion of a man, and so it could possibly be that these 2 people get trapped there. Now, I'm not going to say that they're setting them up already to be like the sequel, but it's possible that they're at least a reference to the comics and they get lost there, and maybe they're sort of inspired by those characters. Yeah, at least Blastar. I don't know. I have other theories about Annihilus that I'll go into later. But
now, what I was thinking, maybe cannon fodder. Basically, just 2 people to die to show.
And it's still possible that they're based on characters from the comics, but still serve as cannon fodder.
Now, another one, which I might also be reaching for. We know that Mole Man has been casted in the universe.
Harvey Elder.
In the film, Harvey Elder. And, I mean, who's to say that he doesn't go to the negative zone with the Fantastic Four and becomes blinded or something by like a surge of energy, and then for the rest of the movie's in a hospital, some bullshit like that. You know what I mean? So you don't see him.
I personally don't think they're going to go that route, since this is obviously inspired largely by the Ultimate Comics. Yeah. In that universe, Harvey Elder was actually one of their professors who. His work was then made him in those comics. The Baxter Building actually serves as a think tank for students, as opposed to like an apartment building. Yeah, and he's a teacher there who gets thrown out because his studies on creating his own species or discovering species are too extreme. I don't know if they'll go exactly that route, but I think he will be a professor or some sort of scientist in the mix. Okay. And so I think he's not going to be on the field team. I think he's going to be where Dr. Franklin Storm is in the trailer. I do want to point out is that that's awesome that you spotted the costumes under their astronaut suits or whatever we're calling them, because I totally missed that. And you're right. Like, if you look at them, there are blue bodysuits under those things. They might not be entirely like the comic book ones, but there's definitely some Easter egg, kind of.
I mean, if that's the costumes that they get at the end, I'm fucking all for it. Like, I'm officially on board. But for now, I mean, I don't really have any suspicions or like anything I'm really worried about. I mean,
So
I just want to see Doom.
I want to talk a little bit about their powers really quick before we move on to Doom. So yes, as you said, Human Torch will have vents so he doesn't overheat. Doesn't quite make sense to me how his bodysuit doesn't just burn off of him, and if then, like, what does overheat mean then for him? Is it like he just burns up himself, or is it like... so I'm not entirely sure how they function, but I get it. It's just I need more information.
I mean, I'm sure it'll be explained in the film.
Yeah. Secondly, it does look like he goes full Human Torch in the trailer, so I'm assuming he'll be able to fly and shoot fire and do all the things from the comics. The Thing we get to see goes more through like a metamorphosis. It looks.
Now, they also said that he could change back and forth between forms.
Did they say this?
Well, in the one of the mentioned leaks and rumors, that's what they said. So maybe every time he needs to transform, cocoon mode.
That's because we see him crack out of what looks to be like a Thing cocoon, is what I was mentioning.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's how his powers work.
But the reason I thought that was interesting is when the Nerdist, information came out, they said that the Thing would be wearing pants, like his little trunks.
Yeah.
And in the trailer, it appears when we see the Thing in full form, he's naked.
His ass.
Yeah. So to me, that says that maybe you're right, and the trunks are him when he's not thinged out, and that makes me wonder if that Nerdist got more footage than we did, or just more insight than we did. Either way, he looks awesome. We got leaked photos of a while back of his face, and he really looks like
really emotional. Actually,
it looks really great. Toby Kebbell's playing him. I'm really excited to see that. But okay, so
Toby Kebbell is playing.
Sorry. Toby Kebbell plays Doctor Doom.
Jamie Bell is playing.
Yeah, Jamie Bell is playing the Thing. But I'm excited to see what he brings to the role. Nonetheless. So
now, okay, let me go into depth about Doctor Doom.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So there's an article I read on Comic Book Movie, one of my favorite websites. I forgot who it was who quote unquote leaked this info, but the Doctor Doom that we've seen in the set pictures, and I'll also post a picture of that, where basically people were calling him Ragman and the Crazy Quill, all that shit. That was basically pre armor.
Yeah.
Doctor Doom?
Yeah.
And that by the end, he will have his classic faceplate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And almost a Master Chief looking bottom hat, or neck down.
Yeah,
with a coat over that. Now, I'm sure, I mean, who knows if it's real or not, but if it looks like that, that'd be pretty cool.
So, okay, I definitely think the leaked photo was real, and the reason I say that is, you know what I mean, the first leaked photo where he looks like quote-unquote Ragman. We see him in the trailer. As far as I know, I'm pretty sure that's him in the trailer, in the hospital bed.
And then
it looks like that photo. To me, that's maybe what he's wearing when he sneaks into the facility and uses... We know that he uses their teleporter to go to that dimension to give himself powers after learning that they've done this. Yeah. So at least that's what the plot rumors have said. And I think even Josh Trank or Simon Kinberg has mentioned this. So we at least believe that to be his origin. So I wanted to go into that a little bit, in that Doom is going to be a hacktivist. The way I envision his faceplate being... do we know if Latveria exists in this universe yet?
Well, we're not entirely sure. I know there was a huge Easter egg in the trailer that actually that led to the Wikipedia page on I know a bunch of different pages basically about Latveria.
Okay.
But also I think they're doing reshoots right now in Romania.
Okay, so we do think that Latveria has some sort of a
might be. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm thinking, Dr. Doom, especially about the faceplate, if he is a hacktivist, if he is, Doom Online, I'm thinking that the faceplate is sort of like a Guy Fawkes thing. It's.
I hope not. I really hope not.
See, I'm okay with that if that sort of becomes the thing. Now, the only problem with that is that Doom can't be, 99% versus 1% anonymous kind of guy if he's going to end up being a dictator. And I'd be okay if he's not going to end up being a dictator of sorts. Because let me go into my Doom theory really quick. And you have to remember that I'm preparing for this film to not be like the comic books. I'm okay with that because it's not. That's just where we are. It has a lot of actual it does actually have a lot of throwbacks to the comics, more so than I thought it would. And I think that the essence will be there. But for me, I think what's going to happen is I think Doom will go to the negative zone, give himself powers, come back, have a conflict with them. I think he will go to the negative zone in the end to try to make himself more powerful because he can't beat them. And I think he will get trapped there. And I think what's going to happen is that he's going to build an armor, sort of like what you explained, Master Chief looking.
Yeah.
But slightly more insect-based. And I think in the next film, he will be called Annihilus. And I think he will be their version of Annihilus because it's annihilation is another word for doom. And
yeah,
that'll
Dr.
be
Annihilus.
Yeah, and when he sort of comes back, he will now have an army of, whether they be natives or robots or something, he will have, essentially the Annihilation army. And when they're sort of trying to figure out who he is, obviously they they figure it out quickly, but it's that sort of reveal of annihilation is another word for doom,
No, I don't
obviously this is just, speculation
Yeah.
completely.
Now, that's I wouldn't like that personally, but I'm not shitting on your idea. It's a good idea and it's pretty cool. But personally, that's not something that I would want.
Yeah.
Now, off the top of my head, so we see in the trailer who we think Doctor Doom might be. From the back, from
the medical
behind.
bed.
From the medical head, and there's another shot that looks like him because you can see he's got a weird, almost burnt-looking head.
Interesting.
Kind of.
I gotta rewatch
I'll
the trailer.
post a screenshot.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll
good.
post a screenshot of that. Now, I'm thinking that there will be 2 attacks.
Yes.
One attack on the Baxter Building where he gets his powers, right? Mm-hmm. Now, he's not going to get his powers and be fucking fine and dandy, so he's going to be on a medical bed because he's fucked up. You know? And now, it looks like his suit, from the set picture, it looks like his suit was an astronaut suit. Okay. That sort of bonded to his skin.
Oh, so it just burnt into him?
Yeah, it burned into him, and now he looks
like
fucked
that.
Up.
Yeah.
That's why in the set picture, basically he looks burnt, like a burnt zombie.
Yeah, he looked raggedy.
Exactly. Yeah, like Ragman.
And so I think the cloak he's wearing in that and the mask even.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking, okay, he looks like that. That's basically his new body.
Yeah.
So apart from the cloak, dude's practically fucking naked, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that he's gonna try to unleash, and before this, he's gonna get his own armor and make fucking a superior costume for himself, right? Mm-hmm. I think that he's gonna lead an attack on. I think he's gonna try to basically overwrite the negative zone portal. And try to destroy not only the Baxter Building, the world, all that shit, but yeah, that's basically my thought. That
I don't think
the set photos that we saw were pre Doom.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's important to mention that my theory is going entirely off of what we know about this version of Doom and what we know about the film, and the film won't be like the comics. I think it's important to say that because of what we know about this version's Doom, if he is a hacktivist, if he is an anonymous kind of guy, now this is assuming that he's more on the good side, because he could totally be on the evil side of that too. But maybe, obviously the superpower thing could be a sort of a egotist, greedy ploy. But I think that when he comes back from it, I think I think that even him going there isn't entirely to get powers for personal gain. I think him using the portal is to see what they're up to see if because he thinks it's something nefarious, or more so nefarious than his intentions. And I think when he comes back and sort of gets his theories confirmed, almost and obviously not in a way that links them to intending it, but in a way that he feels ruined his life. I think when he comes back, he's going to say, this needs to be stopped. And that's why he sort of launches an attack on the Baxter Building. And I think going off of that, the image of them standing around at the end of the trailer, the Fantastic Four, the glory shot of them all together with the giant laser. Now, granted, it doesn't look like it's New York City, but to me, that's the Baxter Building getting sucked up into the negative zone, is that giant laser. Now, it's probably not, or it's probably something, maybe something similar of the negative zone portal opening. That could be that laser, but I still think that that's what that laser is the negative zone opening.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it could be sucking up sucking up new. Like they could be on the inside of the negative zone, right?
That's what I thought at first. But that means that they do at some point go back because they're wearing their containment suits in that scene.
That ties back into what I said, where they first get their powers. Doctor Doom and the Fantastic Four get their powers separately, right? So they both learn how to deal with their own powers, and eventually Doctor Doom goes back into the negative zone the second time, where let's say the climax would take place.
Yes.
And sort of unleashes it on the world. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then the Fantastic Four have to go in and
to stop
it.
Yeah.
Basically, the final fight fucking in the negative zone.
That would be really cool. I think it's also important to mention that what if they're going back to the negative zone to retrieve the negative? Yeah, the naked zone. What if they're going back to the negative zone? Well, for the Thing, it is the naked zone. But what if they're going back to the negative zone to find the lost people that they lost in the first voyage? Now that might be reaching, but I'm just thinking of all the reasons they could go back.
Basically, at this point,
what you said about Harvey Elder going with them. It's starting to make sense to me. Like, if Doom isn't the one to become, sort of the annihilist of that universe, Mole Man would make sense if he finds his moloids there, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, unless the whole rumors are really rumors, for all we know, it could be Sue, Ben, Richard, Johnny, fucking Harvey, and Victor.
Yeah, no, totally.
It could be all of them.
We are speaking entirely off of mostly speculation.
Yeah, by the way, for those listening, all of this is just rampant speculation. Nothing we could really, nothing that's been
just stuff to make you think about what could be this.
Yeah, building hype.
So, what I will say is, Toby Kebbell has talked about Dr. Doom, and he's talked about how he's such a big fan of Dr. Doom, and that one of the things he worked on the most was the voice. It does sound like he's one of those people who wants to bring the comic Dr. Doom to life. So I think
even if the origin in the movie might be different, I'm very certain that we're going to get a solid performance by Toby Kebbell.
And I still expect this Doom to act like Doom, if not by the end of the movie, then throughout the entire film.
Exactly.
But so another thing worth mentioning is that in the trailer, so we don't see Sue Storm use her powers. We see Reed, even though it's off screen mainly. We see Reed use his powers. We see
actually we do see Sue.
So is that what that was? Because
it was Johnny using throwing a flame at Sue Storm. I'll post a picture.
Okay, well that's interesting in its own right.
Yeah.
Okay, so last bit of thing I want to talk about for this. What the biggest part that bothered me about this trailer, because as I said, I'm on board. I'm a fan. I want this to be a good movie. Even Josh Trank has said, the premise is family, and that's important because that's what Fantastic Four is about. The thing that I didn't like, really quickly, the designs. Namely their containment suits. I understand their containment suits. I understand they're not their final costumes, but from the sound of it, they will be in the majority of the film. They will be on screen most of the time. I think that they're personally not great designs. I understand the functionality of them. I understand the whole, catered to their powers thing. I just think that them being all black and gray bodysuits, and the fact that they have zero continuity, I understand them being different for their own powers, but other than that, the suits are entirely different. So they're just entirely different suits to begin with. So it's just weird to me, and they don't have any sort of Fantastic Four. The only Fantastic Four related thing they have on them is the little etch marks on Human Torch's suit, and we don't know if that's consistent on all of them or if that's just to his suit. So they bother me, and so I spent last week just running up designs of what I would want them to look like. Granted, I spent literally only 3 days designing these, so they're not perfect, but. I sent you the designs. I don't know if you have them up.
Yeah, they look fantastic. But I mean,
obviously, this would be their final suit. This wouldn't be their containment suit. It's just, and I got rid of the whole catering to their specific powers, though that could always be implemented onto these. It's just I want them to look.
But you want it to be more uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't mind for the containment suit idea. Mm-hmm. Because I think it's been confirmed that they are going to get a classic suit at the end. Mm-hmm. So, I mean...
As I said, my issue isn't with the premise. My issue is with the fact that they're giving these suits the majority of screen time. They should put more effort into designing them. Just in terms of a design standpoint. It doesn't even need to look like the comics. I just think they don't have a sense of... even in terms of... They look like they're all built by different people. So it looks like they're all from different organizations. It just makes me think like there's no reason these people, to me, are a team. Even if they aren't a superhero team yet, they don't even look like they're part of the same project or anything like that.
Well,
so
that's true. I see what you're getting at.
So the movie hasn't come out yet. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they don't even wear these for as much of the movie as we think they do. Even, you know, there's entirely possible they get the costumes halfway through or for the final battle even. But so I worked these designs up really quickly. We'll post them on the video or on our social media if you're watching or if you're just listening. But what I was going for was more of I wanted the explorer feel because I still feel like they are explorers at heart, more than superheroes. And then I wanted sort of a scientist feel, and then I wanted to look like something that the military would put together as well. So that's what I was going for. I did like the idea of Human Torch having the etch marks, but I didn't like that was, you know, without the symbol. I'm assuming we've seen the symbol in the trailer, so I'm assuming they'll wear it on something. But I do like the idea of tally marks. So what I went with, and you can kind of see it in this, but basically each character has 4 tally marks, and one tally mark on them, a different tally mark on each character is a different color to indicate that they're like, you know, number 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
They're a little hard to see since they're so small, but I did think about that when I was implementing them in there. So yeah, this is just something quickly I came up with, and just what I'd want to see from Fantastic Four designs, personally.
Yeah, and I mean, they look great.
Thank you.
They did a good job.
I'm still very excited for the movie. Oh, and one last thing before we end the show, I just want to say the thing from the set pictures that we got and a little bit from the trailer, looks like he has like moss growing on him to a degree.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that concept.
Looks fantastic.
Because the thing, even when his rocky skin is supposed to be his skin, it still rocks for all intents and purposes, so it should act like them. So I like that. Add some depth to the character. Makes him less cartoony. So I guess that's it for this week's Comic Spot. Any last thoughts from you, Julian?
I hate you.
Okay.
No.
That hurts me. It hurts me a lot.
Who cares? No, just...
This is why you need to listen to our podcast so you can give me some love, because he's not going to give me any.
No, I will not. But you know what I will give love? That Fantastic Four trailer. I mean... Yeah. It was fantastic. It was, well, I keep saying fantastic unironically, but it was great. Yeah, that was probably the biggest piece of news.
And that movie's this year. How crazy is that?
That's also another thing, is that they released the trailer a little late, you know.
Well, that's okay. Before we end the show, let's just mention that really quickly. We just live in a world where trailers come out like a year before their film, so it's interesting to see someone wait. So
close to the release.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, you know what? I think that's about it for this episode of the podcast.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you enjoyed episode 2 of A Comic Spot. Yeah. Just to recap, we are a conversational podcast that gets together once a week to talk about everything comic book related from the prior 7 days. I have been your host, Antonio, and my co-host, Julian.
Yep, that's me.
And as always, thank you to Adam WarRock for the songs. All the songs included in this podcast were written and performed by him. We will have a full list of credits in the description for the video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps us. We want to know your feedback on this. Yeah.
And actually, tune in to next week's podcast where we have our first guest. Now,
you could say he's going to rock our world.
I hate you. We're going to... We're going to be having more guests.
I think our plan is one a month.
Yeah, one guest a month. Now, that's really something to look forward to see other people and get insight on you know, how they feel about comics.
Yeah, because you're probably already tired of our voices.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm tired of your voice, and this is our second podcast.
Wow, thank you, Julian.
But on that note, also just want to mention that we actually have a real schedule. Every Tuesday is a podcast, so if you're listening to this, you know, it's Tuesday. Every Thursday is a comic drop, which is where my co-host Antonio reviews all the comics that came out that week and what he picked up and what he suggests. And every Friday is Seeing Spots, where I give you all the TV and comic-related movie news that you love, and that's basically it. That's what you have to look forward to every week. So, yeah. Just want to finish our podcast with that little bit of info, so you know what to look forward to. So yeah, thank you guys.
Spider-Gwen for president. Have a great night.